It might not look like it, but this is the perfect piece of wood. The oddly shaped material I am holding right now would appear to be a piece of boxwood burl, attacked by a mushroom from the Ascomycetes family. The burl is responsible for the thousands of little eyes pattern on the wood, while the blue-gray color that's on the inside is given by the mushroom. I would say this is overall a pretty rare and amazing piece of wood that I recovered myself not too far from my house a few years ago. So when I was searching for an interesting piece of wood to make a ring for my friend, I thought this one was perfect. We've been friends since elementary school, and he recently started to wear dark rings made of wood and metal. So I figured out it would be a good birthday gift to make him a unique one with my own hands. So let's get to it. To begin with, I cut a burl in order to have two flat sides to mount it properly on the lathe. I'm always careful when I cut awkwardly shaped pieces like this with the bandsaw, and I always keep a good grip on it so that it doesn't roll over. Here you can start to see the intricate colored pattern peek through the cuts I made. Then I put it on the lathe, first mounted with the spur center to get a rough shape, and I then proceeded to unwrap the gift. Once I feel like I've removed enough material to be comfortable, I put my piece in a chuck to get a better hold of it, and to allow me to remove the dead center on the other side. I can then start to turn the ring there. What I find difficult when turning rings is that it is such a small object that you have a very little room for error. There are no fixes. If you mess it up, you can just start over. If you take away a bit too much material on the inside, for example, the ring will be loose. If you have a mishap, you scratch the outside of the ring with your tool, it's done. On some other bigger pieces, if you make a little scratch or you have a bad surface finish, you can just remove a bit more material or sand it again. It will not show, and you can get away with it in most cases. But on such a tiny piece, if your tool rips, the piece is dead. It usually takes me 2 tries to get a ring right, and this is the first try you're seeing right now. Will I mess it up? We'll see. Wood can have plenty of defects. It can be cracked, it can be rotten, it might have knots, burls, or even shotgun pellets inside of it. At a first glance, it can't be used because those defects have an impact on the physical strength and the overall appearance of the object you want to make. But sometimes you're gonna see a knot or a weird pattern that is actually much more interesting than the rest of the plank you're working on. For the people who make marquetry, which is, in a nutshell, the infinitely precise art of creating an image using thin sheets of wood, it is much more useful for their craft to have a wide variety of wood grains, species, and defects to compose with. Throwback to my video from last month, but this tiny ring made me realize once again what I could do with all those wood scraps I have in my garage. Even in the tiniest scraps, you could make earrings, for example. So when I see the pile I have in my garage, I always think like I could make 1,000 objects out of this. The finish I'm using is cedar oil spray that I add between every sanding pass to really soak up the wood and raise the pores to then sand them back again with the next pass. I stop at a 2000 grit to get a really polished look, and by then the ring is already pretty saturated by the finish. I then proceed to carefully detach the ring, I then sand the side I just detached, and since I wasn't too precise on the lathe, I have to touch up the inside with a Dremel. Getting a ring to the right size is the other difficult thing for me. If the diameter is half a millimeter too big, it means the ring is 3 sizes too big. So adjusting it really is down to the tenth of a millimeter. I tried to fit it for my finger because I know it's pretty much the same size as my friend, but I knew he might have slightly bigger fingers, so I thought I would just touch it up if it didn't fit. Spoiler alert, I had to. This is probably the thinnest ring I made yet, and I can definitely see an improvement compared to the ones I made a few years ago. It sure is more fragile than a metal ring, but it should hold up pretty well because boxwood is quite dense and the burl gives it a good structure. To be honest, this ring might look good only in my eyes, because I find the original piece of wood extraordinary, where someone might see just a super weird stick. It has a kind of smoky look, like the pattern is flowing, and it seems infinitely detailed, and I really love that. The dark color given by the mushrooms adds even more elements to look at. I would be very interested if you let me know what you think about it in the comments. But for now, that's all I have for you today.